My name is Malik Safdar Hayat. The city was a different place then, a place of whispers and slow-burning secrets. In my office, the air was thick with the scent of old paper and stale tea. The tools of my trade were simple: a typewriter, a rotary phone, and a belief that every crime leaves behind a trail of human desperation. There were no forensics, no computers, no fingerprints to rely on. We got our man with a steady hand, a sharp mind, and a relentless pursuit of the truth. This is one of those cases, a file that has haunted me ever since. The story of a misguided boy. The story of Adnan began not in the criminal underworld, but in a small, humble apartment where hope fought a daily battle with despair. He was a young man of 23, and his life was a portrait of quiet desperation. I came to know him through the documents in the file: a good student, a dutiful son. But that hope was slowly being extinguished by the crushing weight of his reality. His father was bedridden, his illness demanding expensive medicine that Adnan's meager earnings couldn't afford. A local pharmacist once told me Adnan often came in, his face pale with worry, to buy medicine on credit. He saw the desperation in the young man's eyes. The pressure became a suffocating force. One evening, Adnan's father took a turn for the worse. The doctor's words were a cold, hard truth. Without the medicine, he wouldn't last the week. Adnan, his mind a frantic storm, went for a walk. It was then that he met Faisal. Faisal was a predator. He drove a flashy, old-model sedan and saw other people's desperation not as a tragedy, but as an opportunity. He saw in Adnan the exact kind of person he could mold. Faisal didn't just offer money, he offered validation. He told Adnan he was too smart to be a simple delivery boy. The first job was a simple test of loyalty: deliver an envelope to a discreet part of the city. The payment was substantial, enough for the medicine, and then some. Adnan, his heart a frantic drumbeat of fear and relief, made the drop. It was a single small misstep, but it was the first crack in the dam. The jobs grew in frequency and intensity. Adnan was asked to collect unmarked packages, to stand guard, to act as a silent partner. Faisal didn't just give him tasks, he gave him a new identity. He made him feel important, a part of something bigger. But a creeping dread began to set in. One evening, Adnan saw Faisal rough up a man who couldn't pay him back. He felt a wave of nausea and tried to quit. Faisal's charming smile dissolved into a cold, menacing threat. "You're in too deep, son," he warned. "You walk away now, and your family will be the first to pay for it." Adnan was trapped. The frantic phone call came on a chilly Tuesday evening. A robbery at a jewelry store, and a man was dead. When I arrived, the scene was a chaotic mix of shattered glass, discarded tools, and shattered lives. The case was on the verge of being filed away as another unsolved robbery. But I couldn't let it go. I spent hours poring over the details. I found a single forgotten cigarette stub, an old imported brand. It was an anomaly. I also found a faint, almost invisible print on the receiver of the old payphone. It wasn't a fingerprint. It was a distinctive oil smudge, a key detail that showed a desperate hand had held that phone. The case was a puzzle, and my office became a war room. I had my team start with the cigarette stub. We learned that the brand was sold in only a few shops in the city. One of the shopkeepers, after some convincing, told us that a flashy man who drove an old model sedan with unique non-standard rims would often buy them. We now had a description of the car and a strong suspect, Faisal. The hunt was on. I spent weeks piecing together the events. I cross-referenced the oil smudge on the payphone with the names of small-time criminals associated with Faisal. The name that kept coming up, the one that matched the age of the boy the witness had described, was Adnan. I knew in my gut this was the fourth man. I had found the scared boy. As my team closed in on Faisal, Adnan vanished. He became a ghost in his own city. We put out wanted posters with his photograph, a photo of a smiling, hopeful young man. It was a heartbreaking sight. I knew he was hiding, but I also knew he couldn't run forever. A boy like that, with his deep love for his family, would eventually be drawn back to them. I set up surveillance on his family's home, a long and patient game. My team and I would sit in an unmarked car for hours, watching. I saw his mother's face etched with worry and his sister's laughter replaced by a quiet despair. It was a cruel thing to do to wait for a boy to fall into a trap, but I knew it was the only way to get him. One night, my instincts paid off. It was a chilly night, much like the one of the crime. I was sitting in the surveillance van when I saw him. He was a ghost, a shadow of the boy in his photographs. He was standing across the street, just watching his family's home. He saw his mother through the window crying, clutching a newspaper with his face on the front page. I got out of the van and walked towards him. I wasn't feeling the triumph of a detective closing a case. I was feeling the sadness of a father who was about to arrest a lost son. He saw me and he didn't run. He just stood there, defeated. "Adnan," I said softly. He looked at me, not with defiance or fear, but with a look of profound sorrow. In my years on the force, I've seen men break in a million different ways. Adnan didn't break. He simply looked at me, and I knew that his spirit was already broken long ago. The case file on the boy was closed. He confessed to his part in the crimes, and his testimony helped us put Faisal away. But what about the true cost? We put a criminal behind bars, but we lost a good man to desperation. The lesson I learned from this case wasn't about the cold-blooded nature of crime, but about the thin line between a good person and a criminal. It's a line that can be crossed by a single wrong turn, a single misguided decision, and a whisper of easy money. This case taught me that justice isn't just about punishment, it's about understanding. The moral of this story is not about the crime itself, but about the circumstances that created it. It's about how a community's failure to provide hope can lead to a desperate man's misguided choice. In a bustling city where dreams were born and died every day, the story of Adnan, the misguided boy, was a story I had to tell. A story that still echoes in my mind to this day.